Peter Thomas Fornital back with you for our 10 to follow at Royal Ascot video on the In the Money YouTube channel. Far from the Brooklyn bunker, I'm now in the London lair, and I'm very excited to be joined by two guests. We'll introduce them as we get into the content here. We start off with a colleague of mine at Sky Sports Racing, who's also very familiar to ITM viewers from the work she's done with us around the Breeders' Cup. She's Vanessa Ryle. Vanessa, we got Group 1 action for the sprinters on Saturday. We're going to go in reverse order here in the Queen Elizabeth Stakes. You wanted to talk about a runner who's the current favorite in this race. What can you tell us?
Well, I wanted to kick off with Lazard because I'm just so looking forward to the sprint on the last day. The Jubilee Stakes is going to be an absolute cracker. Ascot must be just rubbing their hands together. You know, they are all about international competition, and you've got a whole host of international horses in here with Lazard up at the top of the betting. And then the likes of Stormboy bringing in the Australian form, obviously now with Aidan O'Brien. Top Gear also from France as well. And then there's our horses in there with Inish Aaron sort of nearest the top of the betting. But I'm just fascinated to see what Lazard can do this summer and then into the autumn and an international campaign as well. Now owned by Wathnan Racing and a Gelding. They're just going to have so much fun with him. I feel like all chat coming in here has been very positive about him. And I'm just looking forward to a big international race on the final day. I think that's what Ascot is all about, and I love it.
Going to be a lot of fun. You can watch it on NBC. You can watch it on the World Feed. One of the faces you're going to see on NBC is our other guest on this show. He's Nick Luck. Nick, you wanted to talk about one of the big races on Friday, Group 1 action for the 3-year-old fillies in the Coronation.
Yeah, and Zaragana's been the favourite for this race for a long time, and her task appears to be an awful lot easier given that Lake Victoria has defected. However, she's not entirely straightforward, and with the likelihood of a tactical race and the short stretch at Ascot, I think the price disparity between her and the filly that finished just behind her in the Pouliche exactly is too big. And at the current odds, Aidan O'Brien's exactly would be the way that I would play the Coronation Stakes on Friday. It's a race I've been desperately trying to find an angle in. I'm sure by the time we get round to Friday, I'll have found a more creative one, but this is the one that I'm with at the moment.
That works for me. Looks to be a square price in the betting, a bettable price. And yeah, you're getting basically value everywhere else with the big favorite in there. And I think you make a compelling case that maybe there's too much of a disparity. We'll keep the conversation to Friday, but we're going to talk about a Grade 1 sprint now in the Commonwealth. Vanessa has one for us, going to be wearing very familiar colors.
Yeah, well, again, it's kind of more of an interest point. I'm intrigued to see what Jonquil can do back down. Well, not back down in trip because he's never been over the 6 furlongs. He started life out at 7. He won the Greenham, obviously, over 7. And then he went on to the French Guineas. He's going to be in the same colours as Babouche, who's a shorter price in the same race and has much more sort of sprinting credentials and brings in the whistle jacket form. And then, of course, Shadow of Light is up at the top of the betting there. And he could just be a cut above. He could. Like, he's dropping back down in trip and his price reflects that. But I'm intrigued about Jonquil at sort of 9-10 to 1. I think that he shows loads of pace in his races, hence why they may well go down this route of the sprinting option with him. And he's just sort of a different angle in, given that we've literally never seen him over the 6 furlongs again. Backing a horse for the first time in a Group 1 as a 3-year-old over 6 furlongs, trying the trip for the first time, wouldn't normally be a common angle. But he's a horse that I've always really liked.
And you're going to be justified. Well, you're going to have that price to justify the risk you're taking about those unknowns. So we'll see how it plays out for Jonquil on Friday as we pivot to talk about Thursday, where 2-year-olds are going to take center stage in the Norfolk, going the flying 5 furlongs. We're going to talk about a trainer very well known for work with young sprinters, but not Wesley Ward. Where are we going next, Nick?
We're going to Carl Burke and a horse called Naval Light, who's a maiden, finished second on his debut at Beverley, but everyone will have seen how well he shaped that day. And the key point is the form here. Another stride, and he'd have beaten a horse called Old is Gold, who Wathnan have also bought, and comes from the best 2-year-old race run so far this season at Ascot. And Naval Light would have beaten him in another stride on his debut. He's a big horse. I think the stiff finish will suit him. Don't want the ground maybe to be too quick, and they could have gone to the Coventry, but I think this is the easier option. And the market is made by Aidan O'Brien's favourite here, Charles Darwin. And given that, I think that Naval Light at his current odds, which as we speak now are around about 7 or 8 to 1, represents an excellent bet.
Nice.
Is Darwin one to be against or just the price? How would you describe that one's position?
I'm just more positive about the horse that I like in the race, and he's made the most striking impression on me of almost any 2-year-old this season in terms of physique and potential to improve, even though he was defeated on his debut. But he was running in a winner's race and he hadn't even run. So for me, that entitles him to a massive amount of improvement.
Yeah, easy to blue sky it there based on that. Ascot's known for so many things, top 2-year-old racing, like we've been talking about, these big Group 1s. It's also known for very competitive handicaps. We're going to talk about one on Thursday in the Buckingham Palace Stakes, Vanessa.
Yeah, so this is, I was going to say it's a bit left field. It's actually not left field at all. But my horse here in the Buckingham Palace is Never So Brave, an ex Sir Michael Stout horse, now with Andrew Balding. And this horse, so I was at Chester when he ran this time around over the 7 furlongs. He was a shortish price favourite to win a competitive handicap there. Pulled way too hard in Jason hands, was way too keen, and the pace of the race didn't suit. It just all went wrong. He did actually well to finish where he finished. Rewind a year ago, just over a year ago, and this horse was winning, bolting up in a handicap at Chester, and then went on to run in a group race, and it was the old, cliche group horse in a handicap type vibe. Now he's gone off pretty short prices and he hasn't always delivered. He's had a gelding operation. He's obviously had the stable switch, and then things went wrong for him when they took him back to Chester, which I think was very much a plan. But I think he's going to have a stronger pace to aim at in a handicap like the Buckingham Palace. He has a 6 furlong. He has a Wokingham entry as well, but I think they'll stick over the 7 with him. And with a stronger pace, he'll settle better. He's got a turn of foot. And because things have gone wrong for him, his handicap mark, I still believe, has some scope in it, which is what you're going to need in a race like that. And I think people thought he was a group horse in the handicap 12 months ago. I just don't think he's had quite the opportunity to show that yet.
Yeah, interesting idea for sure. Speaking of competitive handicaps, Nick has one for us on Wednesday in the Royal Hunt Cup, where at this stage before the meeting begins, just 72 runners remain entered. I think that's going to winnow down to 30 or so, Nick. Well, give us your way in here.
Yeah, and there's 1 or 2 at the front of the market who aren't guaranteed a run either. One who is guaranteed a run and comes here in tremendous form is Skukuza, who was second in the Britannia last year, so has good Royal Ascot form. Most of the horses that run in the Britannia as 3-year-olds tend to get sold to Hong Kong, but these horses' connections are not ones that need to sell. And Skukuza, easy for you to say, improved significantly to win a big handicap at the Curragh last time, very, very impressively. And I think still remains ahead of the handicapper. I think is fast tracking the stakes company, and I think has been slightly overlooked here. So Skukuza for me, with course form, in form, still improving in the Hunt Cup.
Let's return to some Group 1 action on Wednesday, going a mile and a quarter, or nearly a mile and a quarter, for 4-year-olds and up in the Prince of Wales' stakes, Vanessa.
Yeah, one of my favourite races of the week. Love this race. And this field is really based around that Tattersalls Gold Cup form with Los Angeles, Anmar, White Birch still in there. Don't know if he'll get the ground, but there's a whole load of horses that could well run in the Prince of Waleses that have already met each other before. And so my angle in is with Map of Stars. Again, another Wathnan horse. Very much hoping this team are going to have a good week myself. So he brings in the French form, he brings in the Gannet form. He's arguably unlucky in the Gannet behind Sozy. He's a horse that, I just think he brings in a different angle he brings in the French form and the French angle versus that Irish form, as I've said. And again, I had a chat with James Doyle this week, and I was taken with how much of all the horses we talked about, including Lazare, he was clearly really looking forward to this horse. I questioned about if the ground did come up particularly good. He didn't seem to be worried about that. He said he goes on both. That's not a concern for him. And I think he was unlucky in the Gannet, and I'm with him here.
Let's stick with Wednesday. We're going to talk about the race that kicked things off. More 2-year-old action. Fillies this time in the Queen Mary.
Yeah, I think this is a good edition of the Queen Mary, but the market's being made by one horse who I think has been slightly overrated on her Nottingham debut. I thought Society Kiss made the most striking debut of all of these. It's trained by Rafe Beckett, someone you don't normally associate with sharp 2-year-olds, but when he does get one, they tend to do very well. He just doesn't get sent very many of them. Society Kiss is bred for speed by a Norfolk Stakes winner, his first crop. I couldn't believe how fast she ran on her debut. She equaled the 2-year-old track record. And to be able to do that from a stable like that, who aren't going to have them completely cranked, I thought was a hell of an effort. The form's had a little bit of substance added to it since. And at the odds she is at the moment, 10 or 11 to 1, I think she's just too big. So Society Kiss for me and the Queen Mary.
I love that pedigree angle, and I love that angle of when a trainer who's not known for getting so much out of them at 2, when they can have a debut like that, it's easy to blue sky in a little bit more. And I think I'll be following you in there. Just a couple more races to talk about. They both take place on opening day, which is Tuesday. And we're going to start off with the race that kicks off the entire meeting with a bang. In fact, Vanessa wants to talk about one who was a red-hot favorite on this day last year.
Yeah, mad, isn't it? It's mad. I also am laughing at the fact that Nick has really had like the 2-year-olds covered, and I've really had the older horses covered here, and that was completely like unintentional.
It's almost like we planned it.
I know. It's also a great insight into kind of like the sort of people we are when it comes to broadcasting. Nick's all across these times and what they did and beating horses, and I'm all across like the chat I've spoken to. I think it's very funny. What were you going to say, Lucky?
Well, I was going to say the problem is if you speak to too many people, you get so many tips. You've just got to ignore them all, haven't you?
Oh yeah,
my friend and mentor.
Yeah, for sure.
I did that panel the other night where Richard Brown. I couldn't count how many runners Wathnan had. I mean, I said 50, and he started laughing at me. He went, "Don't be ridiculous. We haven't got nearly 50." And then he started counting them and realised it might be well up into the 30s.
Ridiculous.
My friend and mentor, William Murray, once told me, your ears can be your worst enemy at the racetrack. I think that's true. But when you're if you're a good selective processor of what you hear, as Vanessa is, it can bring things back. Yeah, I'm better off with my nose in the form book, though.
That's the key. The key is that me and Lucky would do loads of interviews. Well, Lucky more so than me, of course, but flat out with the interviews. And you soon learn, like, when someone's got a little glint in their eye or just says something a little bit different, or more crucially, offers information up that you haven't asked for because they just can't not say it. And those are the moments that you're like, hang on a minute, that's worth taking note of. Anyway, on the point of taking note, notable speech in the Queen Anne. Cannot wait for this. So this is just a massive mashup again, a rematch of the Lockenge, of course. Lead artist in there, Dancing Gemini, Rosalian, and Notable Speech. And of those 4 horses that are rematching, Notable Speech for me is the one to be on. And what I love about this is we can all watch the Lockenge back as many times as we like, and we'll all take different views about which horse we think is going to step forward the most from it. And I am pinning my colours to the Notable Speech mast. I think given his position in the race, the move that he made, combine that with what Connection said before and after in regards to how much he's going to come on for the run and the effort, I am putting all that together, and he's the horse that I think is going to step forward the most. Of course, I do have the kind of caveat of the fact that he has disappointed us here in the past, and that is a touch of a concern. But at the prices, he's around 6 to 1. I think he's actually sort of nibbled out in the market, maybe more like 11 to 2 now. But he's behind a few horses there. And I just think he's the one that I'm with on the first day.
We'll go from the first race on the first day to the last race on the first day. Handicap once again. This one over 1 mile and 6 furlongs. The Copper Horse. Nick, who are we looking at in here?
Yeah, I've got pretty strong feeling for this horse. I mean, he's going to be toward the front of the market, probably favourite. French Master. Ran at Goodwood last time, ran into all sorts of bother, and somehow dug everybody out of trouble. Rab Havlin, those who backed him, just about everybody else. I don't think he's straightforward, but they're going to run him in a, John Gosling said, in a little semi-blinker. So I'm keen to be with him. James Doyle obviously taking over because he's been acquired since. I just don't think the handicap has got to him. Simple as that. I think he's got loads more to offer. The form's working out very well. He's unexposed at this distance. He needs every bit of it. He's from a stout staying family. Loads and loads in his favour, and fast ground as well. So French Master in the, whatever that race is called. Is it called the Copper Horse Handicap?
The Copper Horse Handicap, indeed. Vanessa, did you have one more thought? It looked like you wanted to say something when Nick was mimicking the blinker.
No, I just liked a little semi blinker. Feel like
Well, there you have it.
I'll need a semi blinker this week. Let me tell you, just to keep me focused, head down, not the full blinker, just a little,
just a little semi cup. We've got great coverage for you. We're going to podcast every day. You can watch the World Feed. You can watch NBC. You can catch all manner of Ascot coverage. We want you to enjoy this meeting, as we all will. Thank you so much to Nick, to Vanessa, for our sponsors over at Ascot. Make sure to check it out. In the Money Media Players Podcast. That's where the audio shows will be. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to the In the Money Players Podcast. For Vanessa and Nick, I'm Peter Thomas Fornatale. May you win all your Royal Ascot photos.